All right, hey, are we ready?
As ever.
Yeah, all right. Well, hello everybody. Hello, and thank you so much for joining today's Sips with Spartan. So each time we're jumping on here to share our cocktail hour with you guys, we send out a questionnaire to everybody asking, hey, what are some questions that maybe we could talk about and discuss? What do you guys want to hear about? Because a lot of times they're great questions that we haven't thought about. And so we got some really great questions to dive in today. And we're actually joining you from all over the country, literally. So we've got Maureen out in California. We've got Danny in Georgia, and Taylor and I are in Birmingham, Alabama. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. So I do want to take a really quick moment before we jump into these questions and remind everybody about our second annual Spartan Summit. So obviously due to COVID, this year is going to look a lot different than last year, but we are still holding the summit, and registration goes live to everyone starting tomorrow, July the 7th. And you can register online or through our website on the Spartan Summit page. It'll take you to the link for registration. So we've put together a really interactive platform, and we're doing Birmingham, Huntsville tours, property tours. We're going to show you new construction. And then we're also going to have some Spartan Invest presentations and our speakers presentations through that same platform. There'll be chances for Q&A with them through this software. So hopefully anyone that attends will get a really good real life feel for what it's like to be in Birmingham and Huntsville, because that's one of the main reasons why we love having the summit, is we love to showcase the city. So we're going to do that all online for you, and kind of like just a virtual experience this year, but we will see everyone in person next year. So go online and register. But before we start I'm going to do introductions. I know everybody already knows us if you're joining, but still, Maureen, kick us off with intros.
Hey, Maureen McCann here, Vice President of Sales, co-founder with Ms. Lindsay Davis of this awesome company. Thank you guys for tuning in for our Sips with Spartan. Again, we are excited to answer your questions.
Hey everybody, this is Danny Cole, sales consultant here in Georgia, and happy to be here. Looking forward to the meeting and answering more questions.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Taylor Esdale, your closing coordinator, and happy to jump in and answer these new questions you have for us.
Yes, so we do have some of the questions that have been submitted over the last couple of weeks from investors. But if there are any other questions, just feel free to throw them in the chat box, and if we have time, we'll definitely circle back to them. So obviously the number one question so many people are asking about is COVID and what Alabama looks like. It's varied so much from state to state. We've seen such a rise in various states. So what does Alabama look like in regards to COVID cases? And then how has that affected Spartan and then Alabama Rental Property, our property management company? So Taylor, since you're local to these parts, how about you jump in and take that one?
Certainly. All right. So Alabama is experiencing a spike in COVID cases. Our Governor Kay Ivey is closely monitoring the daily cases and has amended the Safer at Home order. The guidelines really haven't changed that much for our community's day-to-day routines. Masks are required in all public places, and social distancing is still highly encouraged. What does this mean for Spartan's operations? Basically nothing. We are still operating at full capacity, and our numbers have continuously improved throughout each month of 2020. We had a record-breaking last quarter across all departments: acquisitions, closing, leasing, construction. It was just so incredible. Within that past month too, we've experienced a higher number of property reservations through our sales force, Maureen and Danny, and our acquisitions agents are acquiring upwards of 6 properties a week. It's just so exciting, so awesome. And now nitty gritty numbers. I know what you guys are all thinking about leasing. Last month alone, we have leased 58 properties. Our current occupancy is at 96.2%. Our 13-week is at 95.7%. Self showings, we're averaging about 28 a week, or a day, excuse me. I think I butchered that. E-leads, which I'm going to drop some knowledge here on you guys. E-leads are online sources such as Zillow, Trulia, any outside source where leads are coming in. We are averaging about 52 a day, and hot leads are people who are coming directly from our website, calling in directly to our leasing line. We're averaging 24 a day. These are just such incredible numbers, and we're so excited to share them with you guys.
Yeah, so and one of the biggest things, so we're tracking our e-leads and hot leads from in regards to the leasing, and those are the leading indicators, right? So anything that's going to show us that there's still a lot of activity out there. We watch how many calls we get in, how many e-leads, how many applications, how many security deposits, showings. We're tracking all of those numbers just to make sure that we stay on pace to keep our occupancy at the current, what it is, like 96.2. So, and it's been a big question mark through COVID. You know, I mean, that was the biggest question from investors. And I know, Taylor, you fielded a lot of questions like that, you know, with investor clients during the closing when COVID first happened. So thank you so much. One of the really cool questions that we got submitted to us, and Danny, I'm going to let you take this one, is are people moving to Alabama? So we're hyping up Alabama, talking about our Spartan Summit. So is anybody moving to the area? What does that look like?
So yeah, it's a good question. I get are people moving to Birmingham and Huntsville quite a bit. I don't get so much the Alabama as a whole, just because our markets are very distinct from one another. But yes, people are moving to the area. So as many of you know, 2012, 2010 timeframe, a lot started changing for the downtown Birmingham district, for instance. We started seeing a major revitalization in downtown. Before the city just didn't have a lot. The buildings were in much needed repair. At the time, our interstate system was, pretty rough. It was dated. The nightlife was non-existent. So there wasn't really a lot to come to in the downtown area. We didn't really even have a grocery store. So that's kind of a big deal. So with all that said, a major revitalization took place. But before that revitalization, the south of Birmingham really started to take off and grew first. So we have a 459 perimeter interstate that goes through Hoover, and that area through Pelham, Chelsea, the Vestavia Hills, Hoover area, all of that grew before the downtown area did. And prior to 2014 or 15, we were seeing dwindling numbers in the downtown district, but with all the revitalization, that's come back. It started to come back really great. For instance, there's been since 2010 until now, there's been a 56% increase of young professional, degreed professional millennial growth here in the downtown district. And a lot of that, again, is due to the resources, the technology, the infrastructure that's been put in. It makes this place somewhere you want to live, I mean, quite frankly. But when you look at Birmingham, it's a commuter-friendly city. It's not everybody, in, say, LA or New York and a lot of these places where investors are, the commute can be horrific. We understand that, but that's just not the case in Birmingham. Places 20, 30 minutes away, they are an easy access to the downtown area. And so that growth, was there first. And so those areas that we're investing in have shown great growth over the last several years.
So one of those, the commuter part too, because we get asked this several times from investors, is that's huge in Alabama, because a lot of our rental properties are not in Birmingham. They're kind of on the outskirts, and that's because that's where a lot of the single family homes and the neighborhoods are. And it's a really, really quick commute. Speaking of Birmingham and then our other area, Huntsville, one of the key points is, hey, find an emerging market. And we've prided ourselves, hey, Birmingham, we're an emerging market and we're the place to invest. But what is an emerging market? And, Maureen, you've been doing this for a long time, and I know you know about the downtown revitalization, because giving downtown tours to investors was a lot more difficult about 10 years ago. You know this. But talk about and bring Birmingham and Huntsville in it too, but talk about what is an emerging market? What criteria, I guess, kind of defines that?
Thank you, Lindsay. I will definitely run with this. And you are so true. The tours last 10 years ago, if we were giving them, there was like, well, this is going to be here soon, and this is going to be here soon too. And I promise you, this stadium is going to be built and open in 2014, right? That was what I would have had to say back then, but it's so much easier to say it now. And that's what's unprecedented is, you take the last 10 years and you look at where we are now, and in the context of through my own eyes, it's absolutely 100% astounding and incredible. So what is an emerging market, you guys? Now, you've made me do my homework, so thank you for the question, and I'm about to unleash. Here we go. So an emerging market basically is just there are economies that will grow larger in the future, and they will have more and more impact on trade and economics. Emerging markets, they have robust growth and development, they have higher levels of liquidity, and they have higher levels of per capita income. They also tend to grow faster, so hence the reason 10 years ago I had nothing to show. Today, Danny and I have lots to show. There's lots to point out with the whole revitalization effort that has gone on in the downtown area and the outskirts. And what this does, emerging markets, they afford the investor, which we're all investors on this call, right? They afford us the opportunity to grow our capital faster, say compared to already developed or established markets, because they're still growing, but just not at the clip or pace that an emerging market could grow. So, when you look at either say just a country, or let's just drill it down to even just cities, Huntsville, Birmingham, when they're becoming more industrialized, you'll see these cities spending vast amounts of money on infrastructure. And if anyone has come for a tour recently, or if anybody has driven through the main thoroughfare in Birmingham, which is the Interstate 5920, that was a complete rebuild. They tore the entire thing down and rebuilt it in a year. That was amazing. It was a $700 million rebuild. One, we needed it. Two, but it's the investment in the infrastructure. Why? Because we're attracting more business. And that's exactly what has happened. So you've got foreign investment, which leads to rapid growth and expansion in liquidity and in capital. So this is where I'm going to cheat now, guys, because I don't have all this memorized. I'm going to throw on my glasses. I'm going to read some stuff and see you some data points, right? So according to the Alabama Department of Commerce's 2018 New and Expanding Industry Report, direct foreign investment reached 4.2 billion, resulting in over 7,500 new jobs. Okay, put that in context. In 2018, there's a for those of you who don't know, there's a group called Select USA. They're basically formed to go out to international or foreign investors and bring their capital into the United States. And just in 2018, they facilitated bringing $20.6 billion in foreign direct capital, and Birmingham got 4.2 billion of that, right? So it just goes to show you when you as a state offer things that other states can't, because we've got a low barrier of entry. We'll give you a great deal on taxes, right? The biggest expense is taxes. And so if we can show you a way to lower your taxes by bringing your business and hiring our people, they're very, very effective in doing that. And so they did that with the state, local, and government officials. They did that with the manufacturing groups. They went over to Japan and Germany. They got Mercedes and Honda and Hyundai to set up big manufacturing plants here. And now they're focusing on Texas. I say now, but they've been doing it for the last 2 to 3 years, going to Silicon Valley, cherry picking some of those CEOs and getting them to come and tour what it is that we do here in Birmingham, so that they'll start opening headquarters or expanding operations here in Birmingham. So a couple more points. I got to put the old lady glasses on, so hold on a second. All right.
Wait, you don't have all that memorized? I mean,
you know, there's so much capacity in here, and then you add this in, and you know, it gets all fuzzy. So anyway, all right. So there's a publication. It's called Made in America. You guys can Google it. They reported that these same numbers resulted from companies from 16 different countries that launched projects in the state. And the state is about halfway to reaching those job numbers again in 2019. So the foreign direct investment projects are approaching 1 billion in value with a B, and are slated to bring another 3,300 jobs to the state, according to the Alabama Department of Commerce. Currently, there are 109,000 people employed in Alabama by foreign-owned companies, according to Select USA. And the state Commerce Department says, here, get this, guys. Since 2013, foreign projects in Alabama have resulted in almost 13 billion in new capital investment and roughly 25,000 new jobs. So, you know, the things that we were talking about were foreign investment capital, and then liquidity in markets to be able to grow and expand. So hence cheat sheet number 2. This was published in June 4th of 2019. And the title is called "The City of Huntsville Maintains Highest Credit Rating. Why does that matter?" Here we go. So the City of Huntsville has again received top scores from 2 national credit rating agencies, giving the city the financial muscle to borrow, get this, $85 million to help fund a wide-ranging list of projects, to include $25 million in infrastructure towards the completion of the Greenbrier Parkway in Limestone County. Well, why does that matter to you? Because this $25 million build was an incentive the city gave to help lure Mazda Toyota manufacturing facility to the Rocket City. Additionally, I love this last little part, the credit agencies commended the city for its strong economy management, budgetary performance, and flexibility, as well as liquidity and weak debt. So when you're asking about what is an emerging market, I am not going to repeat all of that because that is a mouthful, but just know it comes down to foreign investment actively pursued, brought to the state to build whatever it is that they're building. I mean, that $1.6 billion Toyota plant that's being built in Huntsville, that was the largest economic development deal in the history of Alabama, right? So why is Alabama a mecca for new startups and new business? It's because we're cool, we've got infrastructure, we've got, you know, we're giving them good tax breaks. They're bringing their manufacturing facilities here and hiring our people that then rent our properties and produce our cash flow. It's a beautiful system. It's all interrelated. And that's why you want to invest in emerging markets, because it produces the cash flow that we're looking for.
Man, I mean, the data with also that we're just cool. I love it. Love it. It's perfect. So we just had a question pop up, and it actually goes right along with the next question. So with Birmingham and Huntsville definitely being classified as emerging markets, job growth, job development, you know, and this has been across the board, not just Alabama, but Birmingham, Huntsville, but across other states, is that there's been a low inventory of single family homes. And so we've recently started a new construction company in-house. And so we're able to build new homes and sell them to the investor and, you know, kind of do a cost savings by bringing it in-house and provide that cost savings to the investor. So talk a little bit about our new construction and what that looks like in the area. And then I'll follow up with the investor question that we just had posted.
Sure. Yeah. So this is exciting territory for us. And we knew it was coming a long time ago. just because there are investors out there that are looking for new construction. They like that deferred maintenance for as long as time and for as long as possible. And the new construction is going to provide that for them. So no big maintenance bills for you guys. Awesome. And we are very strategic in the way that we are rolling these new builds out. So we are going into already established, highly owner occupied neighborhoods. And we are putting up, brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-car garage, 2-car garage, brick face, vinyl siding, price points between 175 to 190 on nice large lot sizes, good square footage, about 1,500 to 1,700 square feet, and rates of return on levered monies, 11 to 13%. They're stellar. We kind of had people over the years asking us when we were going to do new builds. And I recognize that, as we grow, this is our, whatever, I don't even know what year that we're in, COVID, what year of business we're in. But what's happening is that as we continue to grow, we're still going to do the rehab properties, but there is definitely a demand for the new builds. And what Lindsay was saying is right on, is that and this was something that I saw recently too in a blog called Keeping Current Matters. And it was a map of the United States, and it looked at which states were selling states and which states were buyer states, depending on inventory. And Alabama overall is low on inventory. We're under 4 months. And that means we've got a population that's growing. We have we have affordable housing needs that are significant. And this is a way, our business has been able to supply residents with, affordable houses they can rent. And the new builds are what our investors want. So I don't know. I love my train of thought.
It's very, very exciting too. And the new construction that we have wrapping up right now, I mean, they were rented before we got our certificate of occupancy from the city inspectors, for over what we projected the rent would be. So there is definitely a demand out there for new construction. And this was a great question that kind of coincides with this is, the specific reasons. The question was, are there specific reasons to focus on new construction? And yes, you've got the deferred maintenance, and then of course you've got the lower inventory. And then what is the difference? What's the benefits, pro, cons between the rehab and the new construction in kind of what Spartan offers?
So with the new construction, one, everybody loves new, first and foremost. Two, they're going to rent faster just because they look nicer. I mean, you walk in, it's a HD TV house, right? Everything is brand spanking new, which goes to show even with the new construction properties that we've already done, they rented really fast and they rented above what we projected. Also too, I think, and this goes for both, this is a pro for both. Low interest rates or the interest rates are at record lows right now and have been for a while. They're looking that they're going to stay that way for a while. So if you can lock into 30-year cheap money now, for 3 3/8 or 4 1/4, and you buy a brand new house. I mean, this is the outlay of capital is not that much, and the rate of return when you calculate in the rent escalation year over year, it's going to be the cash flow on both and the rates of return on both are really good. So I always think it's nice, when I talk with investors, I'm like, you want to have a diverse portfolio. You want to have everything from new construction to rehab to 2-1s to 5-3s and everything in between, because you want to appeal to a large audience, a large renter pool, so you can keep your houses occupied longer, and so you can get a consistent, and this is the key thing, a consistent year-over-year rate of return from your properties. There's a lot of volatility in the market. There's a little bit more stability here, hence the reason I think whether it's a new construction or a rehab, the cash flow is cash flow and it comes through the rental properties.
We don't have a ton of data, and we're obviously a very data metrics driven company because we track everything. We don't have a lot of data, but what we do know from other very similar markets with new construction is that the price point for in the turnkey or in the rental areas, the price point that new construction drives, those tenants are not typically your lifelong tenants. So a projected stay for tenants, just a pro con between the both, between rehab and new construction, your projected length of stay may not be as long, because typically those are people that are saving up. They're a higher income household. They're saving up to buy their new home. And whereas if you're getting into a lower price point, those are your lifelong tenants. Length of stay is longer. I mean, our rehab properties are getting an average length of stay of like 39 months, so and then obviously your capital that you're out is a lot lower with the rehab properties versus the new construction, because the new construction, I mean, can you buy a new house out there in California for 180,000?
That's like the doghouse that goes in the back.
Exactly. So the price point, while it's high for our portfolio, it's still not a very high price point at all for new construction, but where our other rehab homes run about 80 to 110. So that's a lot of information for new construction. Sorry. Yeah. But it is very exciting. We're so excited to be able to offer both now. It's pretty awesome. But so one of our current investors, one of our favorite investors, John. Hey, John McCarn. Hey, if you're watching, thanks for sending this question. So Danny, are we eyeing any new markets aside from Huntsville to jump into?
Yeah, we started with Birmingham, and next is the world. But yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for new markets because we have to expand. I mean, you have to be careful not to cannibalize yourself and to grow and see consistency as we grow as a company. It's very important. So, and to keep offering those same type of returns to our customers. So we're looking for different markets, and we honestly hope to find something this year and to announce this year. But while things are going great with us, I mean, they just are. It's I think Lindsay said it best. She says it's kind of like we're in the twilight zone because when you look at the news, everything's doom and gloom. And you look here, it's like everything's great. But with that said, we were hoping to announce this year at the end of the year, but it'll probably be pushed to next year, just for the safety of everything and putting the best interest of our company and our employees and all of us, just in a good position. So what we're looking for, I mean, it's the same thing. Why do people buy in Alabama? It's affordable. The taxes are the lowest in the nation, and it's landlord friendly. And many of you already know, I don't have to tell you, but you don't appreciate that last bullet point until you've experienced it. That landlord friendliness, getting someone out of a home if they don't pay within 45 to 60 days versus 9 months. And the law simply is on your side in this area. And that's why we are looking again in the Southeast for our next market, because typically the Southeast has great landlord friendly areas. So yes, it's those factors. And then one other factor that Maureen did mentioned and described so eloquently and great detail, I might add, kudos to you for that, is the emerging market. We're looking for that, that area that's growing, seeing new jobs and seeing a good median income in the area. So you want to create that stability.
Yeah, I know any investor that owns a rental property out in California is screaming preach right now to you, Danny, talking about landlord friendly, because it definitely matters. So, and there's maybe two states that there's two states that have more landlord friendly other than Alabama. So and all of the states out there. So we're definitely in the top tier, and that has an effect on your overall annual rate of return, whether or not you can properly evict a non-paying tenant. Obviously, outside of COVID, we handled COVID very, very, very differently, because this is definitely a different situation, global pandemic. But yeah, no, everybody out there right now, Danny, is going, yes, this is true. All right, so much about markets, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're going to take a pretty swift turn here and talk about our home inspection. So Taylor, you are over the whole closing process, helping investors set up their home inspections, appraisals, work with the lenders, all of that. And one question that we had was if we've renovated the property, and if you guys have checked us out online or purchased a property with us, you guys know we're doing major renovations, flooring, paint, roof, HVAC, water heater, why does stuff still pop up on the home inspection? Why,
Absolutely.
why would that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So the most important thing to remember is that it's the home inspector's job to find items. It is very rare that you come back with a completely clean report. The only time I've really seen it is on a new build. Your house, it's just, I would not purchase a home out of state, in state, whether it's going to be a rental property to my primary residence, that I would not get a home inspection done on it, no matter what I know has been done to the property in a renovation standpoint. There will always be something you find on your home inspection report. As I just mentioned, and as Maureen and Danny and Lindsay can all back me up here, we will always recommend you getting a home inspection done on your property. Not that we do not trust the work that we do on it, but you are looking into these older homes. You are looking into sometimes a really major renovation, and it's just a really good checkpoint to have for one, your peace of mind, and two, for the longevity of you owning this rental property. Anything that comes back on the home inspection, we will take care of it. CapEx items, safety, liability items, all which may appear on your home inspection report. It's just a really great piece of information to have when going through or purchasing a rental property.
I could not agree with you more. My brand new home, we got a home inspection and there was stuff, new build. So it does definitely happen. But from an investor standpoint, you're looking at your home inspection. What do you look at? What should you care about? Dive into a little bit about that, because I agree, safety precautions, we always want to make sure that we do right by investors, but what should investors be looking for?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I look at a home inspection, my top 3 or 4 items I'm looking for is structural integrity. I'm looking at your capital expenditures, the reason why you're buying a turnkey property. So your roof, your plumbing, your electricity, your HVAC, sorry. So I am looking at those, and I looked at those same items when I purchased my home. My husband and I bought back in December. Those are items that you do not want either a quick fix on. You do not want us to cut corners, and especially you don't want to be footed with a bill 8 months after you purchase this property. So those are the items that I'm looking for, that I'm bringing back to my construction team, double checking with them, making sure that those are done if they appear on your home inspection. Items not to worry about: cosmetic items, landscaping. It is probably one of the most important, and also probably one of the most difficult mindsets to put yourself in, that you are not going to be living in this house. You are purchasing this house, you're buying this house for the revenue stream. You are not purchasing this house to live in. So those are mainly the 2 items that I get from investors, that they want something to look nice. That's not going to deter a tenant from leasing your property. Landscaping, curb appeal. That is something that, if you want to plant some shrubs in your front yard, we welcome it. Chances are we get a really hot and dry Alabama summer, those things are going to die. It is what it is. And, I've gone to enough occupied properties for appraisals and home inspections. Your tenant will add their own touch to make your property their home. So that's also something to remember too, because they want to feel as if it's their own.
Yeah, that was perfect. Yes, because it's such a difficult mindset that you need to look at it like an investment and a revenue stream, and that allow your tenant the opportunity to do that. Yeah, that's a really, really good point for sure. So one really quick just follow up, we get just a couple of pretty heavy hitters as far as like staining decks and gutters and stuff. So talk about, so if I know that we'll leave gutters as long as they deter water, but kind of talk a little bit about that and kind of the exterior staining new decks, etc. Talk a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So how we operate is that if Spartan acquires a property without gutters, we leave it as is. A metal roof, when they are installed, which are about, correct me if I'm wrong, 98% of our properties, metal roofs actually act in place of gutters. Rainwater comes down at such a velocity that it does not stay, and the eave of the roof deters water away from the property line, or away from the foundation, excuse me. So that's always something to remember. You want those gutters to catch any downpour of water. However, when we have the metal roof on, it's going away from the property, away from the foundation. All new decking we install on the exterior of the property, a lot of times you will see a home inspection come back saying stain and treat wood on back deck, front deck, whatever case it may be. We install every deck with treated wood. There has to be a downtime for that wood to season itself, or else if we stain it too early or you stain it too early, it does not matter whether it was brand new treated wood, it will still trap moisture and it will decay faster than you expect it to. And another big point we have is a lot of times, a lot of the properties we acquired, they have storage buildings on site, on the property. The only time we will touch them is if they are dilapidated and they are a liability to our tenants, to you, and to the tenant, just in general. Those are the only time we touch them, and we demolish them on site. So otherwise we do not touch them. They are just purely to store their lawnmower or any other little odds and ends. They're just there for storage only.
Yeah, and if you're like most people in Alabama, it's a little bit more rural, so there's about 20 to 30 lawn care equipment items that go in there. Yes, that's a really good point, though. We do get that question a lot, in that, hey, are we going to do renovations to the shed? And it's like, well, no, that's not part of the home, and it neither drives up nor down your rent, so it wouldn't really affect your rate of return. Yeah, no, those are really good points as far as the sheds and the wood. Thank you, Taylor. So really one quick question. So Danny, I'm going to lump you in with the next one that we got. The one question that we did get, kind of circling back to COVID, was, are we doing are we doing property tours right now in Birmingham due to COVID, and with Alabama and spiking in current cases?
Yeah, absolutely. So for a bit there, we closed the office entirely. Nobody was here. We didn't do any tours. Just in precaution, using the most precaution or as much as possible. Now we are allowing tours. For instance, last week I had a group come in. We are not allowing anyone into the office itself, but I'm there for you, myself or Maureen, depending on the date. We will give you a tour around the city, show you the changes that we've talked about today, the revitalization. We'll take you to 2 or 3 houses, let you see the properties. And that's important, because you see that economies of scale at work. You see the same LVT, the same paint, the same light fixtures, et cetera, granite countertops. That way, you get a good feel of what that renovation really is. So in short, yes, we will. And I encourage anybody that's looking at a house, whether California, New York, Hawaii, Anywhere in the world, yeah, I would encourage you to come visit us. One of the great benefits of coming is to meet the staff. Unfortunately, at this time, we do have that on hold, but hope to in the near future have that back up and running as well.
Yeah, that's just to be on the very, very safe side. Health and safety, very important, especially when it comes to the team. So yeah, we do keep the office closed right now. But yes, please come look at Birmingham, look at the properties. Yeah, take advantage. But you be careful driving to Birmingham as well too, or traveling. One question that we got that we've never really addressed, it's never really come up. It's really, really great. Man, that was rough. It's a great question. Guys, it's first class. I promise. It's MLS versus network sales. So Maureen and Danny, if someone reaches out to Spartan and is interested in purchasing a property, they're speaking to you guys. So why don't we list these properties? And since you were a former real estate agent as well, I think you'll be able to shed a lot of insight into this. Is that what's the difference? Why do we not post our properties that are available for sale to the open market on the multiple listing service?
Yes, that's a really good question. So, with the MLS it's a wonderful tool for any market because it's a tool that many people can see a particular listing and they make their own decision about that process. It's very much more simplified process. You're buying house A, you either like it or you don't, and it's not the turnkey approach where someone is assisting you throughout it. In our process, it's much more in depth. When you come on board, you'll talk to myself or Maureen, and it's very important because we want you to know from start to finish what to expect. I mean, anything from the expectation on earnest money to how long does it take, the renovation time, the construction time, the metrics around leasing and time to tenant, and all those important aspects of what you're getting into, average returns. And I just simply can't imagine turning that over to thousands of realtors in the area and saying, okay, yeah, this is what you say, and it's going to change all the time, but I need you to keep up. And so that's why, in short, while we don't turn that over to the MLS, we want our investors to have a full understanding and honestly to have a time. I mean, my average call is probably an hour to an hour and 30 minutes. I mean, it varies. But I do want to give our investors, and I know Maureen is the same, give them that time. That education factor is everything. And so once we get an investor on board, once that property is finished with construction and renovations, we do put that on the MLS. So you'll see it on the Zillows and all of the other various sites as far as the tenant side. So real estate agents can show that property to tenant it. But again, most of that's done with our 6 leasing agents. It's done in-house. We have digital lot boxes. The vast majority of our houses are shown with the digital lot box or self-show method, and which has been great throughout, to mention, it was a lifesaver through COVID-19. We didn't know we were making that great of a decision, but it turns out we're geniuses. So, but with all that said, on the backside, on the tenanting, we do put that on the MLS, but otherwise we will put our sales comps on the MLS for reference for other comparables in the future to show those sales in progress.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. You're talking about almost 3,000 real estate agents in Jefferson County. There's just no way, when all the things that happen from point A to point B in buying turnkey real estate, that
would never be a mess up or a investor, never. So it would all go perfect.
Never. No miscommunication at all. No. Yeah. So thank you for that one. That's a great question. That one was awesome. I don't think we've ever fielded that one before. So the last question that we got submitted, and I love this question, and Maureen, I'm going to turn this one back to you. And this is such a great point, and this is why we've continued to do this, is because so many people have reached out and asked questions that we may have not even thought about. We have a very extensive FAQ on our website, and but these type of questions, maybe it's like, oh yeah, well, we know that, but not thinking that this is something that an investor might be interested in. So do all properties, do they cash flow the same? And I love this question because it's something that, like I said, we're not thinking about, and it's so critical to know, that they're not all created equal. Or Maureen, take that from me.
Yeah, I'll grab it, girl. I'll go. I'll run with it. So, not all, you said it so nicely. Not all properties are created equally, and the thing investors have to keep in mind is that when I started this business a long time ago, our main focus was to deliver a consistent year-over-year rate of return for our investors, and that comes in a variety of bedrooms, bathrooms, square footages, lot sizes, rents, income. It's all different. So the best way that I can answer that question is if the property is similar in price and size, then you tend to get similar cash flows, right? So your $80,000 house is not going to produce the cash flow that say a $150,000 house would. It's just different. But the thing that I wanted to make my point, I forgot, was that when we started this company, it was like we wanted to produce and present investors a consistent year-over-year return. And there is a range of a rate of return that we not only aim for, that we get. So it doesn't matter if it's a $190,000 house or if it's a $80,000 house, that rate of return is going to be between usually 13 and 19%. And I have to say, there was one investor, I don't know if he's on the call because I can't see, but it was his first property. We knocked it out of the park. He got a 22.4% rate of return on levered money because we got a higher than the rent we projected was $1,150. We got $1,200. And then we based the rate of return off of a 4.5 interest rate, and he got 4.25. And so just those two little things really tweaked his rate of return in this cash flow. And he was stoked. He was like, oh my God, I'm going to buy 1,000 more. And I'm like, yeah, that was a good one. Don't know if I can do that all the time, right? So that just goes to the point that all properties are created equal. But you do need, think about this, you guys, you do need a portfolio that is diverse, not only geographically, but also number of beds and baths that you offer, because everybody has a budget, right? I've leased properties in the day when I've overheard the conversations of, the kids and the parents. Nobody wants to share a bathroom with their mom or dad, if you're a teenager. But that's the thing, and that's the reality, is like you're looking at that property, that 3-1, because it fits into their budget. You're looking at a 2-1 because it fits into your budget. You're looking at a 5-3 because you've got a big family and it fits into your budget. So the long and the short of it is that the properties you can guarantee that the rate of return is going to be equivalent from any dorm, whether it's 80 or 190. The cash flow is going to be different because of a variety of factors, mostly the property taxes, the rent that we get, and the insurance or the interest rate that you lock in. So in short, diversify, have a lot to offer because your renter pool is diverse as well. They've got different needs and different budgets. And if you've got, 2-1s to 5-3s, you're appealing to a larger investor pool.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the diversity in every single one, because you're right. So many people are like, I want a 3-2, I want a 3-2. And then come springtime, when the overwhelming majority of the properties get leased, then you end up just competing with yourself, So especially if you're in the same geographical area with a 3-2, yes, definitely. Please, everyone, diversify. So we got one great question, and Maureen, I'm going to shoot this back to you. So from our properties, are we able to get a 2% increase year over year? And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming we're speaking about 2% annual rent increases year over year. And so talk a little bit about kind of the property management company's perspective on increases and why we're, not gung-ho on them That sounded bad, but you'll do a much better job of explaining that.
Well, I'm not sure if you meant capital appreciation on the property or rent appreciation. So I'll address both. That way we'll cover
There
both.
you go.
All right. So on the, so let's backtrack a little bit, because I know there are some new investors on the call and they haven't been around with us for the years. And let's go back to day one when we opened up our doors and we introduced the 2-year lease to Birmingham. Nobody else was doing that, right? So most residents, they are used to renting, signing a lease for 1 year and then getting the bump the next year and the bump and the bump and the bump. So we decided, hey, look, we're going for longevity. We want residents to stay longer. We want a longer length of stay. So let's do a 2-year lease and keep the rent the same. Let's attract those residents that don't want to keep paying the annual increases, and let's get them into our properties. So that 2-year term at the same rent for each year was very effective in attracting residents to us. Now, there are rent increases. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a 2% across the board. It's not, that's too broad of a stroke, but there are the Director of Customer Service and Property Management and her team, Stephanie Devine, they do audits of rents in the areas, quarterly. So they're looking at, are we above, are we below, are we at, compared to what it is that our product offers on the market. So there's that constant, evaluation and tweaking that's happening to determine, do we keep the rent the same and keep your property occupied, or do we have room to bump it $10, $15, $25? Even some properties we may have rented below market and we were able to increase $75 to $100, right? So it's kind of that case by case sort of thing. I would be very cautious to say, yes, absolutely 2% across the board every single year. You just have to kind of watch what's going on in the market, the dynamics, and do the audits and recognize where we are as far as our rent ranges for the product that we offer. So that's the rent appreciation answer. Hopefully that was good enough for you, Mr. Suresh. And then the other thing that's really more exciting now, again, context. If we were talking in 2012, I would never even be talking about capital appreciation in Birmingham, Alabama or Huntsville. I just wouldn't, because it's a very modest number, not something to boast or brag about. Now, fast forward to present day, we have something to talk about today. So capital appreciation, what is going on in Birmingham? Well, when you talk about a hot market, people can use that term just to get attention and to attract headlines. No, this is actually happening today. So we're at about 35 to 40 zip codes. And according to Zillow's home prices and values.com, I looked at the last 12 months of capital appreciation, and I looked at the forecast for the next 12 months in capital appreciation. And I was happy to tell you that historically, prior to 2012, my arrival, capital appreciation rates were a very modest 2 to 3%. We are now looking at 4% up to 18%, and everything in between from 6, 7s, and 9s and 10s on capital appreciation in the last 12 months with those same forecasts and those same types of numbers for the next 12. And that really speaks to the low inventory that we have in the state, which is increasing the values, because it just comes down to that supply, demand, very basic tenant that drives, low inventory drives prices up. That's exactly what's happening right now. So those who bought with us in 2012, you should be super excited because your property is appreciating in capital significantly.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. The capital appreciation, yes. I mean, if you bought with us in 2012, you have definitely seen some appreciation. Like Maureen said, hey, that's the cherry on top. That's the benefit. But when it comes to the rent appreciation, there are a lot of investors. There are a lot of markets that get higher rent appreciation than Birmingham does. We just don't. It's a very, very slow and steady wins the race. But when comparatively speaking to your move out cost, your marketing fees, your lease up fees, it's just, you just get a better annualized return if you can keep that tenant long term. And with 1,200 properties under management, when we say it's a case by case basis, like, yeah, sure. No, it really is. We really evaluate whether or not that tenant has been a good tenant, a well-paying tenant. Are we going to risk losing them because we want to drive up the rent an additional $75? And the overwhelming majority of the time, it's a no. We want to keep that rent at where it is, maybe just bump it $20 to keep that tenant in there occupied, so you guys you're not feeling the turnover cost. Man, that was awesome. That was great. Thank you guys so much. That's all the questions we had. I know it's already been an hour. I mean, that's crazy. But thank you guys so much. And thank you for joining us again today. Everybody, you guys say goodbye.
Bye, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your interest.
Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in again.
Yes. So next month we'll be back with Scott Hildebrand and Amanda Ford, our client services managers, and then you guys will see Maureen, Danny, and Taylor again come September. And let's just try to speed 2020 along as fast as we can. We're just going to keep on trucking along. And thank you guys so much for joining us again. Thanks. You guys have a great Monday.
Bye, everybody.